The start of the MLB DFS season has been a good one for me, and I hope it has been the same for you. But I think this week number 3 or 2.5, whatever you want to call it, is the one where we really start to hit our stride because for each pitcher we'll see this week, we've already seen them probably twice so far, maybe minimum of once. And we know, are they the same as they were? Have they made tangible changes? Are those changes good or bad? We can get a read on that. We can also get a read on which guys have made swing changes and things like that. So we've actually got good data, but maybe the market hasn't fully reacted to that data yet. So I'm pretty pumped about this week in general. And I think that we begin things off with a pretty fun slate on Monday. We got decent pitching options. I think you've got a handful of guys you can put at the top, some solid stacks as well. So it's a fun one. We're going to break it all down and get you ready for tonight's slate in MLB DFS. Welcome on into the solo shot. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire, here to break down Monday's 8-game main slate with lock set for 7:10 p.m. Eastern for today. So the 6 p.m. games not in the main slate on FanDuel. So keep that in mind as we run through things for today. When looking across those eight games, only one game has a temperature outside of a 15-degree range between like 56 and 71. That one exception is the Brewers and the Diamondbacks in Arizona. It is 91 degrees there. The roof is open. Chase Field does this fantastic thing where they will list out roof information ahead of time, and the roof is open for today. It's good for offense. I'm not sure I will get there personally, at least not for offense. I think both or one offense struggles and the other team is a very good pitcher starting. So I might not get there for offense, but it is noteworthy that the best hitting conditions for tonight are in Arizona for the Brewers and the Diamondbacks. We'll dive into the pitching preview, stacks, and more in just 1 second. But first, a reminder to make sure you're subscribed to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed wherever you get your podcast. We have the No More Daily ISO. We do have the solo shot here every weekday, breaking down MLB DFS, UFC for select events via Austin Swaim, and PGA back once again this week for the RBC Heritage Open. Get all those by subscribing to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. Also, if you like what you hear, do not forget to give us a 5-star rating. We appreciate those of you who have done so as well. The solo shot also up over on the FanDuel YouTube page for those of you who want to watch it in video form. For some reason, we appreciate those of you who have done so for sure. Grand slams, no hitters, and double plays are back, and there is no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. So don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only. $10 deposit required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. In Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In Connecticut, 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In Indiana, 1-800-9-WIN-IT. In Wyoming and Kansas, 1-800-522-4700 or in Kansas, ksgamblinghelp.com. Louisiana is 1-877-770-STOP. In Maryland, mdgamblinghelp.org. In New York, 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. And in West Virginia, go to 1-800-GAMBLER.net. Pitching preview for this Monday main slate. Julio Urias is the highest salaried pitcher on FanDuel. He comes in at a salary of $10,900, followed by Luis Castillo at $10,500. Max Scherzer is down to $10,100. Graham Ashcraft is $98,000. We got Logan Webb against the Dodgers at $96,000. Yu Darvish is $93,000, with Zach Gallen, Wade Miley, Bryce Elder, and Steven Matz as the others at $8,000 or higher. Now, I do think there are a healthy number of guys you could put at the top for pitching for tonight. I feel good about going with Julio Urias personally. He's my favorite of the bunch, but there are some other routes you could take here for sure. Urias is facing the Giants, who have a 99 WRC plus versus lefties on their current active roster since the start of last year, with a 26% strikeout rate. And that to me is the key. A big boost facing a team with a strikeout rate that high. Now, Urias has always been a good real life pitcher, but that hasn't always crossed over to DFS because he wasn't a big strikeout guy. The strikeouts through 2 starts have been there so far this year. He has a new cutter that he has been throwing, and it's not a big pitch for him. About a 12% usage rate so far. But on that pitch, he has a 28.6% whiff rate, which is his highest of any pitch per Baseball Savant. So right now, Urias' swinging strike rate is decently low at 10.2%. But I do think there is room for upward movement if he gains confidence in that pitch and starts throwing it a bit more. 2 really good starts for Urias so far. He has gone 6 innings in both, 6 strikeouts in both, with 2 total earned runs. They did come against softer opponents, and they were both at home, but the Giants will whiff, which gives Urias a very clear path to upside here. I don't think it's bad if you want to deviate because Urias is on the road, might have some regression in his strikeout mark based on the swinging strike rates, but Urias is my top guy personally. I feel pretty good about him and will put him at the top of my list for today. The one guy I would consider potentially putting above him, I think that in the same tier as Urias, is Luis Castillo. Castillo's $10,500. Similar to Urias, he is on the road. He's also facing a mediocre offense with a decent strikeout rate. He's facing the Cubs. Castillo is. They have a 97 WRC plus against righties with a 23% strikeout rate. And that's a team that I think Castillo can probably handle. Castillo so far in his 2 starts has looked great. He has allowed only 3 hits across 11 and 2/3 innings, 12 strikeouts, 2 walks. What we've seen from Castillo in his first 2 starts is increased four-seam fastball usage, a change he flashed toward the end of last year. His 48% usage on that fastball last week was his highest since July 14th. If we look at the 9-start sample for Castillo since he started throwing that four-seam fastball more, he has a 3.03 skill interactive ERA with a 29% strikeout rate. Castillo went 99 pitches last time out. He is a bit of a psycho in that regard. He will go well above 100 when he's fully stretched out, which it kind of seems like he is right now. I have Castillo projected at 7.5 strikeouts, which is a very good number, and it's better than Urias. So I'm going to put Castillo a bit lower because he has had some hard contact issues in this time with more four-seam fastballs, but both these guys to me are in the same tier. So to me, it's Urias 1, Castillo 2, but they're kind of a more of a 1A, 1B situation than I must have this guy at the top and I must have this guy ranked second. Of the guys at $9,000 or lower, I think we need to rank Zach Gallen highest. That's despite some struggles to open this year, and despite the fact it is a good park for pitching for tonight in Arizona. In the 2 starts for Gallen, he has gone 10 and 2/3 innings with 9 earned runs allowed, which is not ideal. He has 10 strikeouts compared to 4 walks. That's not great either. But it's important to keep in mind that both those matches for Gallen were very, very tough. One was on the road against or both were on the road. One is against the Padres, one against the Dodgers. He gets the Brewers tonight, who are a good offense. They have a 109 WRC plus against righties, so they're also good, but they do have a 24% strikeout rate versus righties, which does help things for Gallen a decent amount. That is good for Gallen's upside, even if the floor leaves something to be desired. I don't see any issues with Gallen's velocity in those first 2 starts. He has changed his pitch mix a bit. His cutter being more like a true slider this year than it was a cutter. Also throwing more changeups, but I don't think those are bad alterations from what he was doing previously. So I think that once we get Gallen in a matchup with a non-elite offense, he'll probably be pretty good. I'm going to give him a ride here and see how it goes, but I do want to make sure I'm lower on him than Urias and Castillo. I think that to me, it's Urias and Castillo in their own tier. I would probably go Scherzer over Gallen as well, but we'll talk more about Scherzer and things to watch. There are reasons why I'm not more itchy to buy low on him than I currently am. So again, Urias 1, Castillo 2, Gallen the top value as a pitching options for today. Let's dig into the stacks, and it does feel kind of bad to keep picking on Patrick Corbin because, he's struggling, and it feels bad to like pile on there. But I just don't think we can avoid stacking against him until he gives us a reason not to do so. I'll be stacking against him tonight, and that means stacking the Angels here. And that's a tough thing for Corbin because he's had a pretty rough draw. Some tough opponents, the Braves, the Rays, now the Angels. That's a really rough draw to start the year. So he struggled, but like that's not a fun way to go things. The Angels, I think it's a bit underrated how good this team could be against lefties this year. They rebuilt their lineup, and I think that they project as a team that will obliterate lefties this year. If you look at their current active roster, since the start of last year, they have a 128 WRC plus with a 208 ISO. That is an absurd number, easily the best on the slate in both categories. When you have an offense with Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, and Taylor Ward, you add in Hunter Renfroe, Brandon Drury, that can happen. Corbin in those first two starts, 5.08 skill interactive ERA, 13% strikeout rate, 51% hard hit rate. I really don't think there's any need to overthink this. We should probably just go here and figure out the rest later on. So I think to me, Corbin remains a key target for stacks and a key guy we can feel good about stacking against until we get an incentive not to do so. The big names here are obvious. Talked about a lot of them earlier on, but Logan O'Hoppe is another guy we need to have on our radar. He has already hit 3 home runs so far this year. He hit for a ton of power across Double-A last year, puts the ball in the air, doesn't strike out. He'll swipe some bags. So it is a tough adjustment to go from Double-A to the majors, but he hasn't looked overwhelmed so far. I think that's pretty impressive. His salary has risen. He's $2,900 for tonight, but I think he needs to be firmly in the mix. If he starts, again, because he's a catcher, so he may not, but he should be in there. The Angels have a lot of good teams, a lot of good contenders for this crown, but make sure you have Logan O'Hoppe in there if he does wind up being in the lineup for tonight. Our second stack is going to head out to Coors Field. We got the Cardinals and the Rockies there for tonight. Steven Matz for the Cardinals. I like Matz a decent amount. We'll talk about that in the things to watch section. Cardinals facing German Marquez, and I do like Marquez. We talked about him plenty here on the show, but I think the Cardinals are a good stack regardless. Marquez making his first Coors start this year, but last week against the Dodgers on the road, he let up 3 home runs. He hasn't been awful from a peripherals perspective, but he also has not been lights out. And now he's facing a team where I think you kind of need to be lights out to shut them down in Denver. The Cardinals have a 119 WRC plus against righties. They have a low strikeout rate, which means they're going to put the ball in play, and that you can do damage with that alone at Coors Field. So no, Marquez is not a bad pitcher, but he's also not an ace. And he's facing a very good offense at Coors Field where the temperature is high enough for us to treat it as mostly regular Coors night, 70 degrees at first pitch. That's enough to make the Cardinals a very good stack in my mind. And I will be on them for tonight. Now, the Cardinals, most of their studs are righties, Arenado, Goldschmidt, etc. I do think we want to give the lefties a bump up here because the ground ball rate for Marquez does go down when he's facing lefty. So take your baseline against righties and give a boost up to Brendan Donovan, Alec Burleson, Nolan Gorman. Give them a boost up from where they typically would be. You're not going to prefer them over the righties, but it does help them a healthy amount. I think Donovan specifically, given the swing changes he has made, I think they're decently legit. So I do want to go at him $3,700. I think that's a very fair number to get to him. Burleson, I think his salary is pretty low. Yeah, 32 for Burleson as well. So both those guys to me deserve to be focal points within our Cardinal stacks for tonight. There are a decent number of contending teams for this third slot for stacking behind the Angels and the Cardinals. I have the Rockies on the other side of this game. I don't have them as the third stack, but you've got them there as a consideration. You have the Royals against Andrew Heaney and his batted ball issues. I think both those are very good stacks. I am going to put the Mariners slightly above them, though, and put them in this third slot. So the Mariners, my number 3 stack behind the Cardinals and the Angels for today. Mariners facing Drew Smyly in Chicago. Smyly is similar to Heaney in that he lets up a lot of dangerous batted balls, but with Smyly, it comes with fewer strikeouts than what you get with Andrew Heaney, which is a good thing for us in terms of stacking. Smyly in his first start kept his cutter usage low, which is something we've seen him doing now across his past 8 starts. In that time, Smyly has a 19% strikeout rate while letting up a 45% fly ball rate. He's let up just 6 home runs in 8 games, which is not terrible, but there have been some single game blowups. Smiley let up 6 earned runs last week. He let up a 7-run game against the Cardinals too. Now the Mariners are not Cardinals-esque against lefties, where the Cardinals are like world beaters against lefties, but the Mariners are very good. They have a 119 WRC plus with a 195 ISO. I think that's good enough to get us on them here. So I'm going to rank the Mariners third behind the Angels and Cardinals as a result, but I think, again, they're a very good stack, just not quite on that level for today. The Mariners are also a pretty righty-heavy lineup right now, which helps here. I know in the past they've had a lot of lefties, but this year they definitely do skew more righty-heavy than they have previously. And those righties can bang lefties. Teoscar Hernandez has a 398 ISO against lefties since the start of last year. That's an insane number, and Hernandez's salary for tonight is $2,800. Oh my goodness. Give me all that. Even AJ Pollock is at 321. I don't mind Sam Haggerty as a value $2,100 if he winds up playing. I think he's hit 6th and 7th against 2 lefties so far this year. So if Haggerty gets in there, he's a value, but Teoscar is 28. Pollock's salary is 28 as well. You can stack the Mariners pretty easily. And if you want more flexibility to stack the Angels or stack Coors Field, I think the Mariners are a good outlet for doing so. Again, Haggerty an option there if you really want to save some salary here in order to spend up elsewhere. Things to watch for today. Let's talk a bit about Max Scherzer. I don't feel a huge need to buy low on him for tonight. His velocity was better last time out, but let up so much hard contact, an issue that he had last year too. He's facing the Padres, who are a low strikeout, high walk team. I do like buying low on guys who are struggling if I think that they will turn things around, and Scherzer probably will eventually, but I don't think this is the spot to do so. So long-term, sure, I'm receptive, but for tonight, probably not on Max Scherzer personally. As far as the Coors Field game, I'm not as high in the Rockies as the Cardinals, but they are in play for stacking. They're facing Steven Matz, who did struggle in his first start this year despite getting some strikeouts. He's had some hard contact issues in the past, had some hard contact issues there as well. We saw Matz have pretty poor results last year too. I think he's better than that personally, which is why I'm not higher on the Rockies, but I think that they're viable here for sure. So the Rockies, probably not my number 4 stack for today. The other alternative stack I mentioned was the Royals facing Andrew Heaney, who gets lots of strikeouts, but didn't get a ton of those strikeouts in his first start this year. Lets up a lot of hard contact and a lot of fly balls. The strikeout potential means the Royals could flop, but they could also go nuts. And I'm fine with that variance if it comes to the upside. Edward Olivares, huge power against lefties. We know we want him in there. The one guy to be lower on here is Franmil Reyes because he strikes out a lot, and facing a high strikeout guy, that might be kind of dicey, but there is big power there too. So totally justifiable. So to me, highest on the Angels, followed by the Cardinals and the Mariners, but the Rockies and the Royals, other teams I would consider in terms of stacks for tonight. Dinger calls for today. The boring one is the one we alluded to earlier on. Teoscar Hernandez facing a lefty with almost a 400 ISO since the start of last year. I'm not turning that down. So the boring one will be Teoscar Hernandez against Drew Smiley. The fun one, I am going to go with Logan O'Hoppe. Not sure if he'll play because, again, he's a catcher, but he's been off to a hot start this year facing Patrick Corbin. You can get him as long as like plus 950 to hit a homer at some sports books. So I think that qualifies as fun. If he doesn't play, I'll go Donovan on the Cardinals. So backup call is Brendan Donovan. I know it's cheap to say Coors Field, but his odds are also pretty long for betting for tonight. So home run calls, Teoscar Hernandez and Logan O'Hoppe officially. And then if O'Hoppe does not play, pivot over to Donovan as the second home run call. That is all that we have here for today on the Solo Shot, but we have a full complement of shows across this week, Monday through Friday, breaking down MLB DFS. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you hear, leave us a 5-star rating. If you want to watch again, we are available on the FanDuel YouTube page as well. If you've got any questions for me, I am on Twitter at Jim Sannes, JIMSANNES. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network at FanDuel Podcast. Want to thank you all for tuning in for today. Good luck to you with your MLB DFS lineups for Monday. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow to break down Tuesday's slate. This has been the Solo Shot right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.